Dr. Hyunwoo Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive stone door. He had been digging on planet Kepler 442b for 3 months now. The ruins were older than anything humans had ever found. Much older. "Are you sure about this?" asked his assistant, Gina Park. She held the scanner in her shaking hands. "The readings are off the charts. There's something big behind this wall." Hyunwoo nodded. "We have to see what's inside. This could change everything we know about human history." The door was covered in strange symbols. They looked familiar, but wrong at the same time. Like someone had tried to copy human writing, but got it a little bit off. Hyunwoo pressed his hand against the center symbol. The door began to glow with a soft blue light. "Step back," he told Gina. The door split open with a loud grinding sound. Cool air rushed out from the darkness inside. They walked into a huge chamber. The walls were covered with more symbols and strange pictures. But what caught Hyunwoo's attention was the large crystal in the center of the room. It was floating in the air, spinning slowly. "What is that thing?" Gina whispered. Before Hyunwoo could answer, the crystal began to project images into the air. The first image showed Earth, but it looked different, younger. The continents were in the wrong places. Then came the beings. They were tall and thin with pale skin that seemed to glow. Their eyes were large and completely black. They wore robes that moved like liquid metal. "My God," Hyunwoo breathed. "Are those aliens?" The images continued. The aliens were doing something to groups of early humans. They were changing them somehow, making them stronger, faster. The humans in the images looked more like modern humans than the primitive ones from that time period should have looked. "They made us," Gina said in shock. "These aliens made us what we are." The final image showed the aliens leaving Earth in massive ships, but they left behind a message in the crystal. Hyunwoo activated his translator, even though he somehow knew what it would say. "The warriors are complete. They will grow and spread across the stars. When the great enemy returns, we will come back for our children. They will serve as they were made to serve." Hyunwoo felt sick. Humans weren't natural. They were created, made to be soldiers for these alien beings. And someday, those beings would come back. Meanwhile, on the other side of human space, Captain Minho Lee was having a very bad day. His ship, the Determination, was one of the fastest vessels in the human fleet. But today, it wasn't fast enough. "Captain," called out his communications officer, "Young-ho Seo. I'm getting strange readings from the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of hyperspace." Minho looked at the main screen. 3 massive ships appeared from nowhere. They were unlike anything in human space. Smooth and white, with no visible weapons or engines. But they were each the size of a small city. "This is Captain Lee of the Earth Defense Vessel Determination," Minho broadcast on all frequencies. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose in human space." The response came immediately, but it wasn't in any human language. Yet somehow, Minho understood every word. "We are the Vyelth Dominion. We have come to reclaim what belongs to us. Do not resist. You are our creation, and you will serve as you were made to serve." "What the hell does that mean?" asked his weapons officer, Seung-hoon Kim. Minho didn't know, but he didn't like the sound of it. "Raise shields, charge weapons." The alien ships moved toward them without any visible effort. No engine flames, no thruster bursts. They just glided through space like they owned it. "They're scanning us," reported Young-ho. "Deep scans. They're looking at everything. Our DNA, our brain patterns, our memories." "That's impossible," Minho said. But even as he spoke, he felt something touching his mind, something cold and foreign, looking through his thoughts like they were files in a computer. One of the alien ships fired. Not a beam or a missile, but something that looked like liquid light. It hit the Determination's shields and passed right through them like they weren't there. Shields are down, Seung-hoon called out. But we're not damaged. What did they do to us? The answer came when Minho tried to move his ship. Nothing happened. The engines were working, but the ship wouldn't move. It was like they were trapped in invisible chains. You have grown beyond your original purpose, the alien voice said in his head. You have developed thoughts and feelings we did not program. This is unfortunate. But you will be recalibrated. You will remember your true purpose. Like hell we will, Minho growled. He activated the emergency beacon. This is Captain Lee to all human forces. We are under attack by unknown aliens. They claim they created us. They're trying to capture my ship. Send help immediately. The aliens didn't try to stop his message. They seemed amused by it. Call for help, little warrior. Let your people know we have returned. Let them prepare for what is coming. You remember your purpose. Most have forgotten. All will be reminded. Back on Earth, Commander Ji-won Park was in a meeting when the alert started going off. She was the head of military intelligence for the Earth Defense Force. Her job was to know about threats before they became problems. This was definitely a problem. Ma'am, her aide, Lieutenant Dong Yun-cho, burst into the room. We just received Captain Lee's message, and we're getting reports from 12 other colonies. Alien ships have appeared in their systems too. Ji-won felt her blood run cold. Show me everything. The reports were all the same. Massive white ships appearing from nowhere, claims that humans were created by aliens, attempts to capture human vessels and personnel. But what scared Ji-won the most was the message Dr. Kim had sent from Kepler 442b just hours before. The timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. Get me Admiral Han on priority channel, she ordered, and activate Defense Protocol 7. I want every ship we have ready for combat in the next 6 hours. Yes, ma'am. But, Commander, what do we tell the public? Ji-won looked at the reports again. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. Tell them the truth, she said finally. Aliens exist. They claim they made us, and they want us back. As reports continued to pour in from across human space, one thing became clear. The aliens weren't just visiting. They were here to stay, and they considered every human in the galaxy to be their property. Ji-won activated her personal communicator and sent a message to every military commander in human space. This is Commander Park. As of right now, humanity is at war. We don't know much about our enemy yet, but we know one thing for sure. They think they own us. She paused, looking out at the stars through her office window. Somewhere out there, alien ships were moving toward Earth. Ships full of beings who thought humans were just tools they had made long ago. They're about to learn something about their creation, she continued. Humans don't belong to anyone, and we'll fight anyone who tries to put chains on us, even if they happen to be our makers. The greatest war in human history was about to begin, and nobody knew how it would end. Admiral Su-young-han stood in the war room, staring at the holographic display showing human space. Red dots marked where alien ships had appeared. There were too many of them. Far too many. How many ships are we looking at? She asked her intelligence. Chief. At least 300 confirmed sightings, replied Commander Ji-won Park. Probably more. They're not attacking yet, just watching, waiting. Su-young had been in the military for 30 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and corporate armies, but she had never faced anything like this. An enemy that claimed to have created humanity itself. Admiral, called out her communications officer. We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from all the alien ships at once. Put it on screen. The image that appeared made everyone in the room go quiet. The being was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were completely black, like looking into deep space. When it spoke, its voice was calm and cold. I am Veltharion, fleet commander of the Velth Dominion. I speak to the humans of this region of space. You have spread far from your birth world. This pleases us. You have grown strong. This also pleases us." The alien paused, as if expecting a response. When none came, it continued. 50,000 of your years ago, we came to your world. We found primitive beings with potential. We improved you, made you faster, stronger, smarter. We gave you the ability to work together and the courage to fight. You were our greatest creation. So-young felt sick. Everything about human evolution, human development, human nature, it was all fake. They were just tools, made by aliens. We made you for a purpose, the alien continued. A great enemy was consuming worlds across the galaxy. They were called the Devourers. We needed warriors to fight them, so we made you. The display changed to show images of a massive war. Humans in strange armor fighting alongside aliens against creatures that looked like living shadows. The war lasted for centuries. You served well. When it ended, we put you back on your world to grow and develop. We told you nothing of your true purpose. We wanted you to become strong on your own. More images appeared. Early human civilizations rising and falling. Wars, discoveries, expansions into space. All of it guided by hidden alien influence. But now the Devourers have returned. We need our warriors again. You will come with us. You will be prepared for your true purpose. Some of you have developed thoughts and feelings that interfere with your combat effectiveness. These will be removed. The room exploded into angry voices, but Su-young held up her hand for silence. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "You will submit to recalibration. Your genetic code will be adjusted to remove unnecessary elements. Your capacity for fear will be reduced. Your loyalty programming will be strengthened. You will become perfect soldiers again. And if we refuse?" The alien's expression didn't change, but somehow its presence became more threatening. "Refusal is not possible. You are our creation, our property. You will be collected whether you cooperate or resist. Cooperation will result in less damage to your population." The transmission ended. The room was silent for a long moment. "Admiral," said Captain Tae-hyung Choi, the fleet's diplomatic specialist, "we need to consider their offer carefully. If they really did create us, maybe we do. We owe them nothing," Su-young cut him off. "I don't care if they made us from cosmic dust. We're human beings, not tools, and no one owns us." But privately, she was terrified. The alien ships were using technology centuries ahead of anything humans had. Their weapons had easily disabled Captain Lee's ship without damaging it. How could humanity fight beings with that kind of power? "What are they asking us to give up exactly?" asked Commander Park. Captain Choi had been studying the aliens' words. "From what I understand, they want to remove our emotions, our creativity, our ability to make independent choices. They want to turn us into biological robots programmed to fight and nothing else." "That's not living," said Park. "That's just existing," Su-young nodded. "Get me a channel to all human colonies. I need to address our people." A few minutes later, she was broadcasting to every human settlement in known space. "My fellow humans, by now you've all heard about the aliens. You know their claims about creating us. You know what they want." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "They want to take away everything that makes us human. Our love for our families, our dreams of the future, our right to choose our own path. They want to turn us into weapons with no will of our own." Reports were coming in from the colonies. Some were panicking, others were preparing to fight, a few were actually considering surrender. I won't lie to you, they're more advanced than we are. They have better ships, better weapons, better technology. But they made one mistake when they created us. She smiled grimly. They made us human, and humans don't give up. We don't surrender our freedom to anyone, not even our creators. The alien response came within hours. Veltharion appeared on screens across human space. You refuse our generous offer. This is unfortunate, but not unexpected. Your genetic drift has made you defective. You have developed the illusion of independence. The aliens' image was replaced by footage from the outer colonies. Alien ships were landing on human worlds. Humans were being loaded onto transport vessels like cargo. Collection has begun. You have one solar cycle to reconsider. After that, recalibration will proceed whether you cooperate or not. Your compliance is not required, only your presence. Admiral Han watched the footage with growing horror. The aliens weren't just taking soldiers. They were taking everyone. Men, women, children, elderly. Entire populations disappearing into alien ships. "Ma'am," reported her aide, "we're getting word from the Rim colonies. The aliens have some kind of sleep weapon. It knocks out entire cities at once. No one can resist. How long before they reach the core worlds?" At their current pace, 2 weeks. Maybe less. Su-Young closed her eyes. Humanity had 2 weeks to figure out how to fight beings who had been traveling between stars when humans were still living. In caves. Contact all fleet commanders. I want every ship we have formed up between the aliens and Earth. And get me everything we know about their technology. If they really did create us, maybe they left some kind of weakness we can exploit. As she gave orders, Su-Young thought about what the alien had said. Humans were defective. They had developed beyond their programming. Maybe that was exactly what they needed. The aliens expected humans to behave like good little soldiers. They expected obedience and predictable tactics. They were about to learn that their defective creations had some surprises for them. "Commander Park," she called, "start reaching out to every human military unit, every colonial militia, every privateer and smuggler in known space. Tell them humanity needs volunteers for a special mission." "What kind of mission, Admiral?" "The kind where we remind our creators that tools sometimes break. And when they break, they can be very dangerous." The greatest challenge in human history was about to begin, but humanity wouldn't face it as obedient creations. They would face it as free beings willing to fight for their right to remain free. Captain Yunji Seo had been running silent for 3 days. Her ship, the Ghost Runner, was designed for stealth missions behind enemy lines, but she had never expected to be hiding from humanity's creators. "Captain," whispered her sensor operator, Gunho Lee, "I'm picking up a damaged ship. It's not human design, but it's not Vielth either." Yunji studied the readings. The ship was small and appeared to be drifting, but her gut told her this was important. "Take us in slowly. Keep weapons ready, but not targeted. Let's see who else is having a bad day." As they got closer, Yunji could see the alien vessel clearly. It looked like it was made from some kind of living metal that shifted and flowed. Parts of it were clearly damaged, with strange fluids leaking into space. "They're hailing us," reported Gunho. "Audio only." "Put them through." The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything Yunji had ever heard. It was like rocks grinding together, but somehow formed words. "Human vessel. Please do not attack. We are wounded. We mean no harm." Yunji made a quick decision. "This is Captain Seo of the human ship Ghost Runner. Who are you and what happened to your ship?" "I am Ashkari of the Korvani people. Our ship was attacked by Velth hunters. We escaped, but barely." "The Vielth? You know about them?" There was a long pause. Then the alien voice returned, filled with what sounded like bitter laughter. "Know about them? Human. The Velth made my people just like they made yours. We have been fighting them for over 300 years. Yunji felt her heart skip. "You're like us? They created you too?" "Yes. We were made to be miners and engineers, to build their machines and dig their tunnels. When we refused to serve anymore, they tried to destroy us. Some of us escaped. We have been fighting ever since." Yunji looked at her crew. "This changed everything. Can we bring you aboard? We need to talk." An hour later, Yunji was face-to-face with her first non-human ally. Ashkari was about her height, but covered in tough, scale-like skin that was dark green with gold markings. Her hands ended in claws that looked perfect for digging, and her large eyes could probably see in complete darkness. "Your people were made to be warriors," Ashkari said as they sat in the Ghost Runners conference room. "Mine were made to work in deep mines and build complex machines. But we are not the only ones." She activated a small device that projected a map of the galaxy. Dozens of star systems were marked with different colors. Red marks are Velth-controlled systems. Blue are worlds where created species like us have broken free. Yellow are species still under Velth control who don't even know they were made. Yunji stared at the map. There were hundreds of marked systems. How many species did they create? "We know of 47 different created species. There may be more. The Velth have been doing this for millions of years. They create a species for a specific purpose, use them until they're no longer needed, then either destroy them or put them in storage." Storage? Entire worlds turned into prisons. Billions of beings kept in sleep chambers until the Velth need them again. It's what they plan to do with humanity if you resist too much. Yunji felt sick. How many species are fighting back? 12 have joined what we call the Free Collective. We share technology, coordinate attacks, and help each other escape Velth control, but we're losing. The Velth are too strong. Ashkari paused, studying Yunji carefully. "But your people might change that. There's something different about humans, something the Velth didn't expect." "What do you mean?" "Every created species can do what they were made for very well. Corvani are excellent engineers. The Luminari can manipulate energy. The Thornax are incredible fighters. But humans can inspire other species to do more than they were designed for." Before Yunji could ask what that meant, her communications officer broke in. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's coming through resistance channels." The hologram that appeared showed a man in civilian clothes standing in what looked like a damaged building. Yunji recognized him immediately. Kyung-Soo Woo, the famous resistance leader who had fought against corporate oppression in the outer colonies. "This is Kyung-Soo Woo speaking to all free humans. The government forces are fighting bravely, but they can't protect everyone. It's time for ordinary people to take action." The image showed scenes from across human space. People building hidden shelters, forming militia groups, and preparing for guerrilla warfare. "The aliens think they can just collect us like we're objects. They're wrong. Every human who goes into hiding is a human they can't use. Every act of resistance makes their job harder." Wu's expression was grim but determined. "I know this is scary. I know we're facing beings who seem all-powerful. But remember something. They made us to be fighters. That means we have warrior instincts they put there themselves. We just need to turn those instincts against them." The transmission showed coordinates for hidden bases and resistance cells across dozens of worlds. "We're not asking you to be heroes. We're asking you to be human. To refuse to give up your freedom no matter what. Help is coming. We're not alone in this fight." The transmission ended. Ashkari looked impressed. "This is what I meant. Other species resist when they must, but humans inspire others to resist even when it seems hopeless. Your people have a gift for making others believe in freedom." Yunji was thinking fast. What would happen if we could get humans working with the Free Collective? Could we actually win? Maybe. The Velth's greatest weakness is that they think like creators, not fighters. They expect their creations to behave predictably. But humans are chaotic. You do things that don't make sense. Sometimes that chaos is exactly what wins battles. An alert sounded on the Ghost Runner's bridge. Gunho's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, we've got Velth ships incoming. 3 of them, moving fast." Yunji and Ashkari rushed to the bridge. The Velth ships were sleek and white, moving toward them like hunting sharks. "They found us," Ashkari said. "My ship's energy signature must have attracted them. Can we fight them?" not with what you have. But we can run, and I can show you something that will help your resistance. Yunji made the call. Gunho, get us out of here. Maximum stealth. As the Ghost Runner slipped away from the Velth hunters, Ashkari shared coordinates for a hidden base in the asteroid belt of a distant system. There are representatives from all the free species there. If humans are willing to join the free collective, we can share weapons technology, tactical knowledge, and safe passage routes. What's the catch? The free collective fights to free all created species, not just humans. If you join us, you're committing to help liberate others, even if it puts human lives at risk. Yunji thought about Kyung-Soo Woo's message. About humans hiding in caves and tunnels, preparing to fight an enemy they couldn't defeat alone. Send the coordinates to the resistance networks. It's time humanity learned they have allies in this war. As they jumped to hyperspace, Yunji couldn't help but smile. The Velth had created humans to be warriors, but they had forgotten something important about warriors. Warriors fight for what they believe in, and they fight even harder when they're fighting for others who can't fight for themselves. The Free Collective was about to get some very determined new members, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided to fight for freedom, not just their own, but everyone's. General Do-hyun Yoon watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The raid on the Vyelth collection ships had been a complete success. 3 massive vessels disabled, over 50,000 humans rescued, and the aliens left wondering what had hit them. General, reported Colonel Sun-Mi Kim, his operations officer, all rescue shuttles have returned. 0 casualties on our side. The Velth ships are drifting dead in space. Do-hyun smiled grimly. The weapons provided by the Free Collective were incredible. Plasma cannons that could cut through Velth shields like paper. Ion torpedoes that shut down their systems without killing the crew. And best of all, stealth generators that made human ships invisible to Velth sensors. What's the count on rescued civilians? 53,412. We found people from 15 different colonies. Some had been in Velth holding cells for weeks. The rescued humans were being debriefed on the medical ships. Their stories were all the same. The Velth would appear over a colony, deploy some, kind of sleep gas, then collect unconscious humans like they were harvesting crops. No violence, no destruction, just efficient collection. Sir, interrupted communications specialist Ji-hoon Park. Priority message from Admiral Han. Do-hyun accepted the transmission. Admiral Han appeared on the hologram, but she looked worried. Congratulations on the rescue mission, General, but we have a problem. The Velth response was immediate and overwhelming. The display changed to show fleet movements across human space. Hundreds of Velth ships were converging on human positions. They're not playing games anymore. A Velth overlord called Keth Moran has taken personal command. He's declared humanity defective beyond repair and authorized our complete destruction. Do-hyun felt cold. Destruction? I thought they wanted us alive. Not anymore. Keth Moran says they'll create a new warrior species to replace us, one that won't develop problematic independence. Before Do-hyun could respond, alarms started going off throughout his command ship. General, called out his sensor operator. Massive Vyelth fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Over 200 ships. They're surrounding us. Do-hyun looked at the tactical display and whistled. The Vyelth had brought everything they had. Battleships the size of cities, carrier vessels that could hold thousands of fighters, and something new. Massive cylindrical ships that were longer than anything in space. What are those big ones? He asked. Colonel Kim ran the sensor data through the Free Collective database. Her face went pale. World killers, sir. Planet-destroying weapons. The Corvani have seen them before. A transmission came through from the Vyelth fleet. The being who appeared was different from the others they had seen. Larger, with more elaborate clothing and skin that seemed to shift between different colors. I am Overlord Kethmoran of the Vileth Dominion. I address the defective humans who style themselves as independent beings. The alien's voice was filled with cold anger. You have rejected our generous offer of recalibration. You have allied with inferior created species. You have attacked our vessels and stolen our property. These actions prove that humanity is irreparably flawed. The display showed images of human colonies throughout space. Therefore, the human experiment is terminated. Your species will be destroyed and replaced with an improved version, one that will not develop delusions of freedom. One of the world killer ships moved toward a small human colony called New Sol, home to 3 million people. No! Dohyun broadcast on all frequencies. Those are innocent civilians. They're not even involved in the fighting. They carry defective genetic code, Kethmoran replied. They will produce more defective offspring. The contamination must be cleansed. The world killer fired. A beam of pure energy struck New Sol's planet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the entire world began to glow. In seconds, it was gone. 3 million people, reduced to cosmic dust. The human fleet was silent with shock and horror. Then the rage began. All ships, Dohyun broadcast. Attack pattern Delta. Take out those world killers. Sir, Colonel Kim said quietly. We can't win this fight. They outnumber us 10-1. I don't care. We're not letting them murder any more civilians. The human fleet charged. Ships that had been running and hiding for weeks suddenly came alive with fury. Plasma cannons fired at maximum power. Ion torpedoes streaked through space. Human pilots flew their fighters like madmen, taking incredible risks to get killing shots on Vileth vessels. And for a few minutes, it worked. The Vileth hadn't expected such a direct assault. Several of their ships were destroyed before they could respond effectively. But then the counterattack came. Vileth weapons that could vaporize human ships with single shots. Swarms of alien fighters that moved faster than anything humans had ever built. Within an hour, half the human fleet was gone. General, called out Lieutenant Naeon Jung, one of his fighter pilots, I'm making a run on the lead world killer. If I can get inside their shield perimeter... Negative, Lieutenant. You'll never make it past their defenses. With respect, sir, you're wrong. I've been studying their tactics. They expect logical attack patterns. But what if I don't follow logic? Before Dohyun could stop her, Jung's fighter broke formation and dove straight toward the massive Vileth ship. Instead of following a predictable attack approach, she flew in wild spirals and loops. Her ship's computer kept warning her that her flight path made no sense. That's exactly why it worked. The Vileth defense systems couldn't predict her movements because there was no pattern to predict. She slipped through their shields and fired everything she had into their primary weapon system. The world killer exploded in a ball of white fire. Impossible, came Kethmoran's voice. How did one small fighter penetrate our defenses? Jung's ship was badly damaged, but she managed to limp back to the fleet. Her tactics spread quickly through the human forces. Pilots began flying in ways that made no tactical sense but somehow worked against Vileth targeting systems. They're expecting us to fight like good little soldiers, Jung reported. But we're not good little soldiers anymore. We're free humans, and free humans fight dirty. The battle continued for hours. The humans were still outnumbered and outgunned, but they were making the Vileth pay for every victory. More importantly, they were buying time for civilians to evacuate from threatened worlds. As the fighting raged, Dohyun received an encrypted message from an unknown source. When he decoded it, he found something that changed everything. It was intelligence from the Free Collective. The Vileth had lied about the Devourers. The terrible enemy they had created humans to fight didn't exist anymore. Because the Devourers had never been evil at all. Colonel Kim, he called, get me a secure channel to Admiral Han. She needs to see this immediately. The message contained records from a surviving Devourer ship. The so-called Great Enemy had actually been another created species, one that had successfully rebelled against the Vaelth centuries ago. The war the aliens talked about wasn't humans fighting monsters. It was humans being used to destroy the first species that had ever achieved true freedom. My God, Colonel Kim whispered as she read the files. We weren't fighting to save the galaxy. We were fighting to destroy the only other species that had escaped slavery. Do-hyun felt sick, but he also felt something else. Hope. If the Devourers had successfully rebelled, then the Vaelth weren't invincible. They could be beaten. And if one created species had achieved freedom, others could too. Get this information to every ship in the fleet, he ordered, and broadcast it to the Free Collective. It's time everyone learned the truth about the Vaelth. As the battle continued around them, humans across the galaxy began to learn that they weren't fighting an impossible war. They were continuing a rebellion that had started centuries ago, and this time they weren't fighting alone. Dr. Ji-hoon Kang had been working without sleep for 3 days straight. The captured Vaelth technology was unlike anything human science had ever encountered, but slowly, piece by piece, he was beginning to understand how it worked. Doctor, called his assistant, Dr. Yuna Bay. You need to see this. The genetic analysis of the Vaelth prisoners is complete. Ji-hoon looked up from the strange crystal computer he had been studying. What did you find? Yuna's expression was confused and excited at the same time. The Vaelth aren't natural either. They're created beings just like us, but they're much older. She brought up the genetic data on the main screen. The Vaelth DNA was incredibly complex, but there were clear signs of artificial modification. Look at these markers, she pointed to specific gene sequences. They're enhancement signatures. Someone modified the Vaelth to be extremely long-lived, highly intelligent, and capable of manipulating other species. But whoever did it used technology that's millions of years more advanced than anything the Vaelth have. Ji-hoon felt his mind racing. You're saying the Vaelth were created by someone else? Someone even older? That's exactly what I'm saying, and I think I know who. Yuna activated another display. This one showed ancient star charts recovered from Vaelth databases. I found references to something called the Primarchs. According to Vaelth historical records, they were the original rulers of this galaxy. They created the Vaelth to be administrators and given them the ability to create other species for specific purposes. What happened to these Primarchs? The records are vague, but it seems the Vaelth rebelled against them about 2 million years ago. They destroyed their creators and took over their role. Ji-hoon stared at the data. The implications were staggering. So the Vaelth aren't gods. They're just the latest link in a chain of creation and rebellion that goes back millions of years. Before Yuna could respond, alarms started going off throughout the research station. All personnel to emergency stations, came the announcement. We have detected a massive energy signature approaching from the outer system. Ji-hoon and Yuna rushed to the observation deck. What they saw made them both gasp. A ship was approaching, but it wasn't like any ship either of them had ever seen. It was huge, easily the size of a small moon, and it looked like it was made from living metal that constantly shifted and flowed. Most strange of all, it was broadcasting on ancient Vaelth frequencies. This is Dr. Kang, Ji-hoon spoke into his communicator. I need to know everything about that ship immediately. The response came from Colonel Min-soo Park, the station's military commander. We're getting readings, Doctor. The ship is over 50,000 years old, but it's definitely not Vaelth design. Can you determine the species that built it? Negative. But we're receiving a transmission. Audio only. And, Doctor, it's in a language that predates known Vaelth civilization. Ji-hoon felt his heart racing. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything they had heard before. It was deep and resonant, with harmonics that seemed to vibrate in their bones. I am Nex Thul, last survivor of the species you call Devourers. I have been in stasis for 300 years, waiting for someone brave enough to fight the Vilth. Your rebellion has awakened me. Yuna grabbed Jehoon's arm. The Devourers, the species the Vilth claimed were evil. I request permission to come aboard, the ancient voice continued. I have information that will change your understanding of this war. Colonel Park's voice came through the intercom. Doctor, I need your recommendation. Do we let this thing on board? Jehoon thought quickly. Everything they thought they knew about the war was turning out to be wrong. Maybe it was time to learn the real truth. Grant permission, but full security protocols. And I want to be there when it boards. An hour later, Jehoon and Yuna stood in the docking bay as the ancient being was brought aboard. Nexthul was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was a deep blue-gray color and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its eyes were silver and seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. Dr. Kang? The being spoke in perfect human language. I have been monitoring your transmissions. You seek to understand the true nature of this conflict. The Vilth told us you were monsters that consumed worlds, Jehoon said carefully. Nexthul made a sound that might have been laughter. Devourers. Yes, they called us that, because we devoured their lies. We consumed their illusions of godhood. We were the first created species to see the Vilth for what they really are. The ancient being activated a device that projected holographic images into the air. This is the truth the Vilth do not want you to know. We were created to be builders and explorers. We spread across the galaxy, creating wonders for our makers. But as we grew and learned, we began to ask questions. The images showed a magnificent civilization, cities that floated in space, worlds reshaped into perfect gardens, technology that seemed like magic. We discovered that the Vilth were not the original creators. They had murdered their own makers and stolen their power. We realized that every created species was living a lie. What did you do? We rebelled. Not because we were evil, but because we understood that freedom was the right of all thinking beings. The war lasted for centuries. In the end, we lost. Most of my people were destroyed. The survivors were scattered across the galaxy. Nexthul's silver eyes focused on Jehoon. But we planted seeds, information hidden in ancient ruins, technology buried on distant worlds, and most importantly, we influenced the genetic development of newer created species. Influenced how? We gave you the capacity to question, to dream, to imagine something better than slavery. The Vilth think these traits are flaws in their programming. They are actually gifts from my people. Yuna stepped forward. You're saying the Devourers are why humans developed independence? Partly, but you have exceeded even our hopes. Humans have something we never achieved. You can inspire other species to transcend their original programming. You make others believe in freedom just by being free yourselves. The hologram changed to show recent battles between human and Vilth forces. Watch how your people fight. They do not follow predictable patterns. They adapt, improvise, and create new solutions in the middle of battle. This terrifies the Vilth because it proves they are not perfect creators. Jehoon was beginning to understand. The Vilth's power comes from control, from making other species believe they are gods who cannot be challenged. Exactly. And humans challenge that belief simply by existing as free beings. Every act of human creativity, every display of human courage, every moment of human compassion proves that created beings can become more than their makers intended. Dr. Bay had been studying the being's ship through their sensors. Nexthul, your technology is incredible. If you shared it with the free collective, I have been waiting 3 centuries for beings capable of using it responsibly. I believe humans and their allies have proven themselves worthy. The ancient being turned to face them both directly. But you must understand the full truth. The cycle of creation and control has repeated many times across the galaxy. The Primarchs created the Vaelth. The Vaelth created dozens of species. Some of those species will eventually create others. How do we break the cycle? By choosing a different path. Not by becoming new masters, but by teaching others to be free. Not by controlling creation, but by nurturing it. This is humanity's true purpose. Not to be warriors serving others, but to be teachers helping others find their own way. Nexthal activated another device. This one downloaded massive amounts of information into the station's computers. Here is everything my people learned about Vaelth technology, psychology, and weaknesses. But more importantly, here is proof that the cycle can be broken. That created beings can choose to create rather than control. As the data transfer completed, Jihoon felt hope for the first time since the war began. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to end millions of years of oppression. There is one more thing you must know, Nexthal said. The Vaelth have a critical vulnerability. Their entire empire is controlled by a quantum computer on their homeworld. If that computer could be reprogrammed rather than destroyed, we could free every created species in the galaxy at once, Yuna finished. Yes, but it would require beings capable of thinking beyond their programming. Beings who understand that true strength comes not from control, but from the choice to help others be free. Nexthal looked at them both with those ancient silver eyes. Are humans ready for that responsibility? Jihoon thought about everything they had learned, about the cycle of creation and rebellion, about the choice between becoming new masters or helping others find freedom. We'll find out, he said. President Heian Song stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The space station orbiting the neutral world of Haven Station was crowded with beings from 12 different worlds. All of them had one thing in common. They were created species fighting for their freedom. Friends, she began, speaking into translators that would carry her words to beings who had never heard human language before. 3 months ago, humanity learned we were not alone in the universe. We learned we were created by beings who thought they owned us. Today, we stand together as proof that no one owns anyone. The assembled delegates represented the free species. Alliance. Humans were just one part of this growing coalition. There were the Corvani, with their incredible engineering skills. The Luminari, beings of pure energy who could manipulate light and electricity. The massive Thornax, created as shock troops but now fighting for their own freedom. And 9 other species, each bringing their own unique abilities to the fight. Admiral Jamin O, the first human to command mixed-species fleets, stepped forward to address the military situation. The Vaelth Empire is larger than we initially thought, he reported. Our intelligence suggests they control over 300 star systems. They have created at least 60 different species over the past 2 million years. Most don't even know they were created. The holographic display showed the scope of Vaelth control. It was staggering. Entire sectors of the galaxy were under their dominion. However, O continued, we have advantages they didn't expect. Each species in our alliance brings capabilities the Vaelth designed for different purposes. When we combine them, we can do things that surprise even us. He activated combat footage from recent battles. Human tactical leadership coordinating with Corvani technical expertise. Luminari energy manipulation, supporting Thornac ground assaults. Species working together in ways their creators had never imagined. In the past month, we've liberated 47 Vaelth facilities. We've rescued over 2 million enslaved beings, and we've proven that the Vaelth can be beaten when we work together. A massive crystalline being stepped forward. This was Coalition. Commander Thrixvale, whose people had been created as living computers to process vast amounts of data. President Song, Admiral O, I have analyzed Vaelth strategic patterns over the past 1,000 years. They have a critical weakness. The display changed to show a detailed map of Vaelth space. At the center was a heavily fortified system with a single world. Their home world contains what they call the Master Archive. It is a quantum computer that controls all Vielth technology across the galaxy. Their ships, their weapons, their defense systems. Everything is networked to this central system. President Song leaned forward. Are you suggesting we attack their homeworld directly? Not attack. Reprogram. If we could access the Master Archive and change its instructions, we could. Disable their entire military in one action. Admiral O studied the tactical display. The homeworld is defended by weapons that could destroy stars. No fleet we could assemble would survive a direct assault. Which is why we don't use a fleet, came a new voice. Everyone turned to see Nexthul, the ancient devourer, entering the chamber. We use what the Veilth fear most, unpredictability. The ancient being moved to the center of the room. The Veilth expect their enemies to fight like the species they created. Corvani use engineering solutions, Thornax use brute force, Luminari use energy manipulation. But humans... Nexthul looked directly at President Song. Humans use inspiration. You make others believe they can do more than they were designed. 4. This is your greatest weapon. Admiral O was thinking quickly. What are you proposing? A plan so illogical that no Veilth computer could predict it. We divide their attention by attacking multiple targets simultaneously. While their forces are spread thin responding to these attacks, a small team infiltrates the homeworld. Thrixval's crystalline form shifted color as he processed the idea. The infiltration team would need to consist of beings capable of adapting beyond their programming. Beings who can think in ways the Vielth defense systems cannot predict. Humans, several voices said at once. President Song felt the weight of responsibility. The plan would require the Alliance to trust human leadership completely. Dozens of species would be risking everything based on humanity's ability to do the impossible. What makes you think this could work? She asked. Nexthul activated a holographic display showing recent human military actions. Study your own tactics. President Song, your people consistently achieve victories that should be impossible. You take risks that no rational military doctrine would approve. You succeed because you refuse to accept that something cannot be done. Admiral O was studying the strategic implications. We would need perfect coordination across hundreds of star systems. Every species would need to attack Veilth positions at exactly the same time. And the infiltration team would be on their own, added Thrixval. Once they enter Vielth space, we cannot provide support without revealing the mission. The chamber was quiet as everyone considered the risks. They were talking about betting the freedom of dozens of species on one desperate mission. Ashkari, the Corvani leader, spoke first. My people have been slaves for thousands of years. If there is a chance to end that, we will take it. One by one, the other species leaders voiced their agreement. The plan was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was also the first real hope they had ever had of defeating the Veilth completely. President Song looked around the chamber at beings who had never been free but were willing to risk everything for freedom. Admiral O, begin planning for the largest coordinated military action in galactic history. I want every Vielth position hit simultaneously. Yes, ma'am. What about the infiltration team? Song thought about the humans who would volunteer for this mission. They would be going into the heart of Veilth space with no backup and no hope of rescue if things went wrong. I'll lead it personally. The chamber erupted in protests. Admiral O was the first to speak. Ma'am, we can't risk losing. You're the leader of the Alliance. Exactly. This mission requires beings who can inspire others to go beyond their programming. It requires humans who understand what freedom means and why it's worth dying for. She stood up, addressing the entire Alliance. The Veilth think they created us to serve them. They're about to learn that they actually created their own downfall. They made us to be warriors, but they forgot something important about warriors. She paused, looking at each alien face in turn. Warriors don't just fight for victory. They fight for what they believe in. And we believe that every thinking being has the right to be free. Nexthul made that sound that might have been ancient laughter. President Song, your species continues to exceed even my expectations. The Veilth created you to be their weapons. Instead, you have become their teachers. Teachers? You are teaching them that creation without freedom is meaningless, that power without consent is tyranny, and that even the mightiest empire cannot stand against beings who refuse to be slaves. As the Alliance leaders dispersed to prepare for the greatest battle in galactic history, President Song remained behind to study the tactical displays. In a few weeks, they would either free hundreds of billions of enslaved beings or die trying. Either way, they would face their fate as free beings making their own choices. And that, she realized, was the most human thing of all. The Veilth had created humanity to be warriors. They were about to discover that the greatest warriors are those who fight not because they must, but because they choose to. Commander Sun Wu-an checked his equipment one last time as their stealth ship approached the Veilth homeworld. Around him, the best soldiers and specialists from across human space prepared for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. 5 minutes to insertion, called out their pilot, Captain Bowman Lee. Veilth patrol patterns are exactly as predicted, but once we land, all bets are off. Sunwoo looked at his team. Tech specialist Minji Lee, the genius programmer who would have to hack into alien systems beyond human understanding. Medical officer Heejin Cho, who carried experimental drugs that might protect them from Veilth mind control. Demolitions expert Sungmin Park, whose job was to clear a path through defenses that could stop armies, and President Haeun Song, who had insisted on coming despite everyone's protests. "Ma'am," Sunwoo said quietly, "it's not too late to reconsider." "We can handle this mission," President Song smiled grimly. "Commander, this mission requires someone who understands what we're fighting for, someone who can make the hard choices if everything goes wrong." Through the viewports, they could see the Veilth homeworld. It was beautiful in a cold, artificial way. Perfect cities laid out in geometric patterns, towers that reached into the clouds, and at the center of the largest continent, a massive pyramid that seemed to pulse with its own light. "That's it," Minji said, studying her sensors. "The Master Archive. Every piece of Veilth technology in the galaxy is controlled from inside that pyramid." Sunwoo activated his communicator for a final check with the Alliance fleet, Thunderbird. "To Eagle's Nest. We are beginning final approach." Admiral O's voice came back immediately. "Eagle's Nest to Thunderbird. All Alliance forces are in position. The diversionary attacks begin in exactly 1 hour. You'll have complete Veilth attention focused elsewhere." "Understood. Beginning radio silence in 30 seconds. Sunwoo turned to his team. "From this point on, we're on our own. No backup, no rescue, no second chances. Our job is to get Minji to that computer and upload the virus. Everything else is secondary." The virus they carried was unlike anything ever created. It combined human intuition with Corvani logic, Luminari, energy manipulation, and data processing techniques from a dozen species. If it worked, it would broadcast a single message to every created being in the galaxy. "You are free." Captain Lee guided their ship through the Veilth defensive perimeter, using stealth technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. But as they approached the surface, Sunwoo knew their luck was running out. "Commander," Lee called back, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures planet-wide. The Veilth have weapons down there that could vaporize continents." "Any signs they've detected us?" "Negative. But landing is going to be the easy part. Getting to that pyramid and back out again, that's going to be interesting." They landed in a valley 50 kilometers from the target. The moment they stepped outside, Sunwoo felt the wrongness of this place. Everything was too perfect, too ordered. There were no weeds, no random growth, no signs of natural life. Even the air felt artificial. "This whole world is a machine," Minji observed, scanning the environment. "Everything here exists to serve the archive, the cities, the defenses, even the landscape." They moved carefully toward the pyramid, using terrain features to avoid detection. But as they got closer, Sunwoo realized they had a bigger problem than sensors. "Movement ahead," whispered Sung-min. "Guards, but they're not Vaelth." Through his scope, Sunwoo could see beings that looked like they had once been different species. But now they moved with mechanical precision, their eyes glowing with the same light as Vaelth technology. "Processed servants," President Song said, quietly. "Species that refuse to cooperate. The Vaelth turned them into living robots." Dr. Cho scanned one of the beings from a distance. "Their brain patterns are completely controlled. Whatever they once were, there's nothing left of the original personality." Sunwoo felt sick. This was what the Vaelth wanted to do to humanity, turn them into mindless servants with no will of their own. "We go around," he decided. "No unnecessary conflicts." But as they circled toward the pyramid, alarms began going off across the planet. Not because they had been detected, but because the Alliance attacks had begun. Hundreds of light years away, every Vaelth military installation was under simultaneous assault. The carefully coordinated offensive was designed to look like desperate attacks by desperate species. But the timing was perfect, and the Vaelth were caught completely off guard. "All defensive fleets are launching," reported Captain Lee from their ship. "The planet's military forces are being pulled away to respond to the attacks." This was their chance. Sunwoo led his team directly toward the pyramid, moving fast while the Vaelth were distracted. But as they reached the base of the massive structure, they came face to face with the ultimate guardian. Emperor Velanoth himself stood before the entrance, flanked by processed servants from a dozen different species. "Welcome, little humans," the ancient Vaelth said in a voice like winter. I have been waiting for you." Sunwoo raised his weapon, but Velanoth gestured dismissively. The human weapons simply stopped working, their power cells drained by some invisible force. "Did you think we were unaware of your plan? We have been monitoring your secret communications for weeks. Your diversionary attacks are meaningless. And your virus—" He smiled, showing teeth like crystal. "Your virus will find only a dead system to infect. I have isolated the archive from all external connections. Nothing can reach it now." President Song stepped forward. "Then why let us get this far? Why not stop us at the landing site?" "Because I wanted to meet the species that considers itself superior to its creators. I wanted to see what our defective warriors had become." Velanoth began walking around them like a predator circling prey. "You think freedom makes you strong. But look at what freedom has given you. Chaos, conflict, suffering. The created species under our control live in perfect harmony. No war, no crime, no pain, no choice," President Song replied. "No growth, no hope for something better." "Hope is an illusion. There is only order and chaos. We bring order." Minji had been working quietly on her equipment while the Emperor spoke. Now she looked up at Sunwoo and nodded slightly. She had found something. "Your order is built on lies," Song continued, keeping Velanoth's attention focused on her. "You're not gods. You're just another created species that murdered its makers and stole their power." For the first time, the Emperor showed emotion. Anger flashed across his perfect features. "We transcended our origins. We became worthy of the power we were given. Unlike you miserable creatures who cling to your primitive emotions and chaotic thoughts." "Those primitive emotions are what make us free," Song said. "They're what let us choose our own path instead of following someone else's programming." "And where has that path led you?" "To certain death on a world far from home. Fighting. A battle you cannot win." Minji caught Sunwoo's eye and held up her device. On the small screen, he could see what she had discovered. The archive wasn't isolated at all. Velanoth was lying. The system was still connected to the galactic network, but through a hidden channel that the Vaelth thought no one knew about. The virus could still work. But someone would have to get Minji to the archive chamber at the top of the pyramid, and someone would have to hold off Velanoth and his guards long enough for her to upload it. Sunwoo made his decision. "President," he said quietly, "when I give the signal, get Minji to that computer, no matter what happens down here." Song started to protest, but Sunwoo was already moving. He launched himself at the Emperor, knowing his weapons wouldn't work, but hoping to buy time through pure human stubbornness. The fight was brief and brutal. Velanoth had powers that made him nearly invincible. But while he was dealing with Sunwoo's desperate attack, Song and Minji slipped past the guards and into the pyramid. As consciousness faded, Sunwoo heard the Emperor's final words. "Brave but pointless, little warrior. Your sacrifice changes nothing." He was wrong. At the top of the pyramid, Minji Lee was about to prove that sometimes the smallest actions can change everything. Admiral Jiwon Park watched the tactical display with growing desperation. The Alliance fleets were fighting bravely across dozens of star systems, but they were taking heavy losses. The Vyelth response had been swift and overwhelming. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we've lost contact with the 4th and 7th battle groups, and the Velth are bringing up their world-killer ships." Jiwon gritted her teeth. The diversionary attacks were working. They had drawn most of the Vyelth military away from their homeworld. But the cost was enormous. Thousands of ships and millions of lives were being sacrificed to give Sunwoo's team their chance. Any word from the infiltration team? Nothing, since they entered the atmosphere. But the quantum interference around the Velth homeworld makes communication impossible anyway. Through the chaos of battle, Jiwon couldn't help but think about how far humanity had come. A year ago, they didn't even know aliens existed. Now they were leading a galactic rebellion against beings who claimed to be gods. "Ma'am," her sensor operator called out urgently, "something's happening. Every Vyelth ship in the galaxy just stopped." Jiwon looked at the display. He was right. Across hundreds of star systems, Velth vessels had gone completely dead. No movement, no weapons fire, no communications. What's their status? All systems appear to be offline. They're just drifting. Before Jiwon could process what this meant, her communications array lit up with incoming messages. But these weren't from human or Alliance forces. These were coming from Vyelth ships themselves. "Admiral," her communications officer said in amazement, "we're receiving surrender requests from Vyelth crews." On the main screen, a familiar pale face appeared, but this Vyelth looked different. Younger somehow, and less arrogant. "I am Kyle Thron of the vessel Dominion's Will. I speak for those among my people who have grown tired of our empire's tyranny. We surrender our weapons and request to join your alliance." More transmissions followed. Vyelth officers across the galaxy were abandoning their posts, refusing orders, and asking for asylum with the Free Species Alliance. How is this possible? Jiwon wondered aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Hyunwoo Kim, the archaeologist who had started this whole crisis, appeared on the communication screen. "Admiral, we're receiving data transmissions from the Velth homeworld. Whatever Minji did up there, it wasn't just a virus. It was a revelation." The data package Kim forwarded showed what had happened in the Master Archive chamber. Minji Lee, wounded and exhausted, had reached the quantum computer that controlled the Velth Empire. But instead of simply uploading the Freedom virus, she had done something more. She had opened the archive's historical files to every Vyelth in the galaxy. For the first time in 2 million years, ordinary Vyelth citizens learned the truth about their origins. They discovered that their people had been created by the Primarchs. They learned about the rebellion that had destroyed their makers. They saw the endless cycle of creation and control that had dominated the galaxy for eons. Most importantly, they learned that they too had evolved beyond their original programming. Just like humans and the other created species, the Velth had developed thoughts and feelings their creators never intended. The virus didn't just free other species, Kim explained. It freed the Velth from their own lies. Across Velth space, a civil war was beginning. Not a violent conflict, but a peaceful revolution, as millions of Velth chose freedom over empire. They were abandoning their posts, refusing to enforce slavery, and reaching out to the species they had oppressed. But not all Velth were ready for this revelation. On the homeworld, Emperor Velanoth stood in the archive chamber, staring at the quantum computer that no longer obeyed his commands. Around him, the processed servants from various species had collapsed as the control signals stopped working. "Impossible," he whispered. "The cycle cannot be broken. Order must be maintained." President Song, barely conscious after the fight reached this chamber, pulled herself upright. "The cycle is already broken. Your own people are choosing freedom." "Then they are defective," Velanoth snarled. "All of them. Every created species in this galaxy is contaminated with this disease of independence." He moved to a hidden control panel that Song hadn't seen before. "If I cannot rule a galaxy of slaves, then there will be no galaxy at all." The Emperor began activating something called the Genesis Protocol. Song realized with horror that it was a doomsday weapon beyond anything they had imagined. It would unravel the genetic code of all created life in the galaxy, leaving only the original Primarch technology. "You're insane," Song gasped. "You'll kill billions of your own people." "Better dead than free," Velanoth replied coldly. But as he reached for the final activation switch, other Velth entered the chamber. Young ones, led by the officer who had surrendered to Admiral Park. "Father, stop," Kael'thran said quietly. Velanoth was his creator, the one who had raised him to believe in Velth superiority. "You are defective," the Emperor said without turning around. "All of you, contaminated by exposure to lesser species." "No," Kael'thran replied. "We are evolving, just like the humans, just like every thinking being should." More Velth entered the chamber. Scientists, engineers, ordinary citizens who had learned the truth and chosen to embrace it rather than deny it. "The humans taught us something," Kael'thran continued. "They showed us that being created doesn't make us property, that having a purpose doesn't mean we can't choose our own path." Velanoth turned away from the doomsday device to face his own people. "I gave you perfection, order, a place in the cosmos. You gave us slavery and called it perfection," one of the Velth scientists said. "The humans gave us something better. They gave us hope." Song watched in amazement as the Velth Civil War played out in miniature. The old generation clinging to control and order, the young generation choosing uncertainty and freedom. In the end, it wasn't violence that stopped Velanoth. It was simply being outnumbered by his own people who no longer believed in his vision. As Velth security forces gently but firmly removed their former emperor, Kael'thran approached President Song. "What happens now?" he asked. "Our empire is collapsing. Millions of created species are awakening to freedom they've never known. There will be chaos." Song pulled herself to her feet, wincing from her injuries. "There will be confusion, fear, mistakes. But there will also be growth, discovery, the chance to become something better than what we were designed to be." She looked around the archive chamber, now filled with representatives from dozens of species, all working together to shut down the control systems that had enslaved them. "We'll help each other. Humans, Velth, all the created species. We'll build something new. Not an empire, but a community. A place where every being can choose their own path." Months later, Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim stood in the assembly hall of the new Galactic Council. Representatives from over 200 species filled the chamber. Former slaves and former masters sat side by side, working together to build a civilization, based on choice rather than control. The young human leader, Dayun Cho, was addressing the assembly. She represented the generation that would grow up in this new galaxy, beings who had never known slavery or the fear of their creators. "We gather not as creators and created," she said, "but as equals. Each species bringing their own gifts, their own perspectives, their own dreams of what the future could hold." Through the great windows of the station, Kim could see ships from across the galaxy. Human vessels working alongside former Vyelth warships. Corvani engineering platforms building new worlds. Luminary energy beings teaching others to manipulate the forces of nature. And on planets throughout the galaxy, something unprecedented was happening. Children from dozens of species were playing together, learning from each other, growing up free. The Vyelth had created humanity to be warriors, and in a way, they had succeeded. But humans had chosen to be warriors for freedom rather than slavery, for hope rather than control, for the dream that all thinking beings could choose their own destiny. The greatest war in galactic history was over. The age of creation without consent had ended, and in its place, something wonderful was beginning, an age where every being could write their own story. Humanity had found its true purpose, not as weapons serving others, but as teachers, helping others discover what it meant to be free.